Unusual traffic-related reports from New Hampshire recently surfaced today. Residents began to report an abnormal large amount of potholes and crack holes in the road, even in areas that have never seen some before, and some that have just been resurfaced and maintained in recent times. This culminated in the appearance of a sinkhole outside of Harriet Barnsley's antique store on the morning of Tuesday the 9th. Mrs. Barnsley asserts that there has been no damage in the road that night before, but on arriving at the store in the morning, a hole approximately 5 feet in diameter had appeared, completely blocking the flow of traffic. By the time the reporters arrived on the scene, a small crowd had gathered. Despite numerous attempts using cameras, flashlights, and delivered equipment, the depth of the sinkhole could not be ascertained. It could not be measured. We were confused on what exactly was going on. Our correspondent questioned Mrs. Barnsley at the scene, and she had this to say. "No, I didn't notice anything, but it's certainly a sight to see, isn't it? So dark and deep. You could just imagine climbing down there and seeing the light disappear above you piece by piece. We don't know what darkness in these days, not really. We have in street lights and electricity lights and car lamps. We don't understand darkness, should we? But it would be dark down there, wouldn't it?" After giving this unusual statement, Mrs. Barnsley could be heard muttering the same thing over and over again. "Darkness is so precious, isn't it? Darkness is down there. Darkness is down there." Over and over and over for at least an hour while observers watched in horror. Report 2. A mysterious man is wanted for questioning in the disappearance of several New England older populations. Harriet Barnsley, the antique store owner that we spoke to in the first report, went missing on Wednesday the 10th. Her disappearance was followed by numerous other people: Thomas Brackenbell, M.S. Molotov, Umo Johnson on Thursday the 11th, and finally, by Saturday the 13th, Ingrid Dress was gone as well. Now the old population is in panic. What is going on? Why are we disappearing? All of the missing members of the New England population were all 60, and none had any acquaintances in common, and no evidence of struggle had been located at any of their homes or place of work. They just seemingly disappeared. The only common similarity between the reports is a sighting of a tall, pale, young male figure roaming the streets. 2 eyewitnesses reported the man on 2 separate occasions. Neither wished to be identified, but one consented to rely on the description of the given man, also in hopes of giving the police a way to identify the man and apprehend the suspect. He was tall and slender and seemed to be wearing all white, maybe jogging pants and a hoodie, or maybe it was a hat. It was difficult to tell. The only thing that was obvious was how white it was. It was almost like it glowed, making the rest of the street seem dim, darker in comparison. He certainly didn't blend in. That's why I remember him so clearly. I was going to call the police at the time, but a fuse box shorted out. All my lights went out, so I got distracted. Although there's no evidence that this man is connected to the 5 disappearances of the elderly people, the police are still very keen to question him and would urge anyone with further information to come forward as soon as possible. Report 3. We are sad to announce that the bodies of all 5 missing victims have been discovered buried at the base of a sinkhole. Harriet Barnsley, Thomas Brackenbell, M.S. Molotov, Uma Johnson, and Ingrid Dress had been missing for over a week when their remains were uncovered thanks to the police canine unit. They were all pronounced dead on the scene. All 5 victims were found buried in the soil at the base of the sinkhole. Though in unusual circumstances, all were sat upright in the dirt rather than laid flat, and all were missing their eyes. No other visible wounds had been reported, and the coroner reported that blood recovered from underneath the fingernails of the 3 victims suggests that the removal of their eyes may have been self-inflicted, like they took their fingernails and ripped their eyes out? None were bound or showed any kind of ligature marks such as chains or ropes that may have tied them together. The cause of death for all five was suffocation, but it seemed like they did it to themselves. Dirt was removed from the lungs of all five victims, making it a grim certainty that they were all buried alive, suffocated to death, while the other residents of the city walked unknowingly above them. There were so many questions that had not been answered. However, one of the least of these was why none of the victims appeared to have tried to dig themselves out of the graves before suffocating. They didn't seem to struggle at all. The final comments of the official coroner reports also raises questions, none of which the coroner herself appears to be able to answer. The end of the report simply reads as follows: "He was too bright for them. Only the dark could save them."